The responsible side of each of us knows that we should be doing certain financial planning things every year, kind of like a checklist, right? But we're busy and we put those things off or we don't want to do them. So today we're going to talk about the most essential things that people nearing retirement should do.
This is the Money Master Podcast.
Welcome back to the Money Master Podcast. I am here with certified financial planners, Tori Tenhagen and Nick Davis. So our audience, you might have noticed that I said planners, plural. So we just want to congratulate Tori. You recently passed your CFP exam, which is a huge achievement.
Quite the
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell us, what was that journey like for you?
Oh, I feel like you should ask my family that. It was long, but good. I mean, I feel like I learned a lot, and it was a very rewarding thing. So
Yeah. It was like running a marathon, right?
yeah,
Like training for a marathon.
It was. I mean, it was the consistent part of my day. Every day was prepping for that.
Because it's not just sitting and taking the actual exam, which, by the way, is what, 7 hours, right? It's 10,000 hours of experience, of actual real life experience, plus how many months of
I think
studying?
2.5 or 3 months of pretty consistent studying. At the end, it was 20, 30 hours a week of studying. I mean, it was very intense.
That was just the exam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she took several courses, which were over a year.
Yeah.
To be able to do that.
Yeah. So we are so excited.
Thanks. Yeah.
So very, very big congratulations.
Thanks.
Yes. So today, like I mentioned, we're going to go over a list of the most essential. It's 10 things. The top 10.
They kind of fall into 4 different categories.
Okay.
So income, taxes, budget and spending, and then your legal and estate documents. So the 10 fall kind of somewhere in there.
And this is the new year. Happy New Year, by the way. So everybody does their New Year's resolutions, their goals, things of that nature, right? So we thought this would be a good way to start off the new year and just kind of adding one more thing to your other
When you're doing
checklist
resolutions,
that you
just
have
check in on
going.
your finances.
And some of these may feel like, oh, yes, I definitely need to do that one. Write it down on a list. Others, you might be like, that one, I've got that covered, or I don't need
not
to
there
revisit
yet,
that.
or yeah.
Yeah. So let's jump in. So first, review retirement income. So Tori, what does that mean exactly?
Really just looking at for the year, especially if you're retired, where your income is coming from. Where are you pulling money from your portfolio, or is it Social Security and pensions? Is there a pension that turns on this year? Just those little moving parts that happen throughout each year of retirement.
And then if you're not retired, you want to also review what your income is going to look like. So it's a good time to look at what your Social Security benefits are going to be down the road when you do stop working, and maybe even just pay attention to how your income may change. You know, it's a good time to review how your income may change when you start to actually get into retirement. You also want to adjust your withdrawal strategy for the upcoming year. So Tori had mentioned if you're already retired, you want to look at like where everything's coming, but you also want to adjust it because maybe it's a part of your withdrawal plan. Like if you're either doing the 4% rule or using a guardrail strategy, or even just being tax wise, meaning you want to pull it out of a different tax bucket for the year. So here we do a tax projection for the upcoming year and look at what that's going to look like. And a person can sometimes dictate what their tax bill is going to be depending upon where they pull their income for the year. So that's what we mean when we say you want to just look at your income.
Okay. And you mentioned, adjusting your your withdrawal strategy. Is there anything that a pre-retiree needs to look at for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, yes. If you're retired, you have the option of adjusting your withdrawal strategy when you have different types of tax buckets. So if you have all of your money in just a 401k, you don't have a choice.
Yeah,
But if
you're
you
taking it out of that
a
bucket.
Roth and you have a brokerage account, you have a choice. And so that means if you're not retired yet, then the thing you can do is ask yourself the question, am I optimizing my savings in all 3 tax types buckets? Yeah. So then I could also be that person in retirement that can be flexible with my
you give yourself options in retirement by saving in different
Okay.
tax status.
Another one, depending on your age, is planning your RMDs, required minimum distributions, taking those effectively and putting them in your plan.
You don't want to miss them.
Yeah.
Right.
That penalty is booger.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not yet, of the age, it's good enough just to know, right? That it's going to be
No, they're coming.
73 or 75, depending upon your birth year. And if you're not yet retired, the age is 75. And so if you are retired, you want to basically make sure that you're taking that out. Usually that might be covered already if you're taking money out of only a 401k, but maybe not. So you want to make sure that you can prove that you've taken out the proper amount in case you're audited. You don't want to have that penalty for not taking that money out when you're supposed to.
The next category is optimizing your tax planning. So let's talk about that. How does that?
And that's a big one on everybody's mind
Yeah, of
throughout
course.
the year anyway. But as you look at the new year, just making sure that you know what you're eligible to contribute to based on your income. Can you do a spousal IRA, things like that to get, money into savings?
Yeah.
And then optimizing your 401k and, should you put some in a Roth 401k, things like that when you're working pre-retirement.
So optimizing how many dollars are going into the traditional 401k versus the Roth versus, do I have an HSA that I could put my money into?
Yeah.
So that's where that matters. But if you're already retired, sometimes people will say, well, let me put money into an IRA this year. You can't if you don't have earned income. Now, if your spouse has earned income, well, then you can potentially have a spousal IRA. But most retirees don't contribute to their investment savings anymore unless one spouse is still working.
Yep.
Consider Roth conversions. That's a big one. People talk about that a lot. Wonder if it's obviously a popular strategy, right? But it's not for everyone.
And it's not for everyone in a given year. Like it may be for you down the road, but not this year. So it's kind of looking at what does your year look like? What's your income look like? What's your tax bracket look like? And what will Roth conversion impact? What will it cause?
In terms of tax planning, you guys have said before that people should plan their withdrawals. Is that something that you do each year? Which you mentioned at the beginning. Yes, that is something that we do.
Yeah. I mean, if you have every type of tax status available to you, you might pull from different accounts for different reasons and different years.
Yep. And here again, if you're not yet retired, you're preparing for it. And, you kind of want to know what that strategy is because it can make a big difference in terms of which order should you withdraw your money from. So again, if you're not yet retired, you can prepare to have this ability by having multiple tax type buckets. But then if you already are retired, you want to basically walk that strategy out so that you can have those tax efficient withdrawals.
Okay, so the next category would be to reassess your spending and your budget. Boy, everybody loves the budget topic, right? But it is really important to regularly can be monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. Like choose what's best for you, but choose a time to review your budget. Look backwards. Like I like to go the last quarter or even the last year and see what my spending actually was. So that way I can plan accordingly moving forward. So can you explain what it means to people who are still working and also to people who have recently retired? Like their budget.
The budget thing comes up, when we're sitting with people who are nearing retirement because they really sometimes don't have a grasp on what they're spending. They're bringing in money and they're spending it, and that's fine. When they sit down to have that, what do you think you're going to need to spend every month? They're like, I have no idea. And so kind of getting at least a rough idea of those numbers is helpful.
Yeah. I personally hate budgeting. What I do is we budgeted when we were in college. We budgeted when we absolutely had to hand to mouth. But then as life goes on, most people look backwards like you were talking about and look at where my spending was. And then it's a sobering moment. It's like, oh my gosh, we spent so much money last quarter. And then it adjusts our behavior. So when we know what that data is about our own spending habits, we tend to adjust our behavior. So that's kind of the habit we have before we retire. At the point of retirement, we have people do exercises to actually kind of assess where their spending is at and where it's going to be. But then when they do retire, those first couple of years of retirement is tiptoeing into retirement where you're actually maybe making some adjustments to see how it goes. We had somebody who she got through retirement and her husband, they met with us and they said, oh my gosh, our first year of retirement, we still have money in the bank. It's surprising, and then they adjusted the way they were thinking about the next year. And they actually just weren't really doing very much that year because they were like being overly fearful and conservative. It's like, oh, I could have done that. Right. And then other people, they get like 7 months into the year and you're like, okay, I really definitely every day is Saturday and I've got to rein this in. And so it is a little bit of an adjustment act for people. So it's just every year you should definitely look at your spending for the year and what
And
it
see how the
was
year went.
previously.
And then also know what those outlier things were, that vacation or the HVAC going out, things like that, where those are extra things, but see where your kind of baseline budget's sitting.
Yeah, and I recall there was a family that you met with, and you had told them, "Hey, you can actually spend more than what you're spending," and they were like, "Whoa, okay, wow!" And then like a week later, they end up calling the office, and I was chatting with them, and they said, "Oh, and tell Nick we went out and bought that new carpet, for their entire house. They're redoing their carpet or something." But they were like, "Hey, tell Nick that we went and spent that money."
That's
So
always a great thing to be able to tell people to spend more money.
yeah,
It was the fun ones.
yeah, exactly.
Hey there, this is a quick break to talk about how you pay yourself in retirement. People often ask about how much they're going to be able to spend each month from their savings when they're no longer working. You may have heard of the 4% rule, the bucket strategy, or nameless others, but none of them do a good job measuring your true spending capacity. That is, how much can you afford to spend each month confidently? I wrote a white paper you might want to read. It's about a guardrail system for retirement that can help you do better in retirement. And I think it's probably the best withdrawal strategy available. There's no cost to download and read it. If you want a copy, all you have to do is text the word income to our business line at 214-988-9178. That's it, just the word income, and send it to 214-988-9178, and we'll send that paper about guardrails straight to you.
Revisit estate and legacy plans.
Yeah. So kind of looking at, for just baseline, do I have wills and trusts set up that I need? The basic estate documents that you need to have in place.
Usually,
People put that off. It's
yeah,
not fun.
usually it's not revisit. It's like that nagging thing you were supposed to do that you didn't do yet. But every year you should definitely check for your beneficiary designations.
For sure.
It's one of those things that it doesn't feel urgent, but it is critical.
And you never know.
Right. You don't want to wait until the very last moment.
Everybody who has somebody close to them pass away starts thinking about this a lot more seriously.
Yeah.
We have a way, where we help to urge people to get their trust done or their will. And thankfully, we've been very successful with getting more people to get their wills and trusts done, to get those legal documents in place. But if you want to keep it simple and you've already got stuff in place, just look to see has there been a major life change? Has a beneficiary changed, like somebody that I don't want to receive something or that I do want to receive something?
And do the people who would carry out my will or trust really know what my wishes are? Like, do they know where my stuff is? Do they know what they need to know if something were to happen?
Yeah. And we had somebody pass away right at the beginning of COVID, and somebody that, she had a designation that did not get changed, that we were not in control of. And we spent almost a year trying to straighten that out. And it's still kind of out there as a possible issue that, this thing didn't go to a trust when it was supposed to. And it ended up being part of public record. And this is a person that could potentially become an issue for it. And so it's just stuff that you want to not have those types of
eliminate
scenarios.
those.
Right.
Yeah. Lastly, revisiting your gifting strategies.
Yeah. So people think legacy, they think what I'm leaving at the end of life, when I'm not here, but you can do stuff each year to gift to your family and leave that legacy now and see people enjoy it.
Yeah. So if you're retired and you're over the age of 70 and a half, then you can do qualified charitable distributions. Okay. And that's where you send money directly from the custodian straight to your charity of choice, including your church. You can do your $19,000 gift exclusion every year. And you can potentially help grandchildren out. You can
UTMA accounts, help fund Roth accounts, things like that.
Yeah, we have a lot of UTMA accounts where people are putting money quarterly or monthly in accounts for their grandchildren. And it gives them a lot of pleasure to be able to print that statement out every year, put it in their stocking, and show them.
See, look where you're at.
If it what you own, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great thing to teach your grandchildren is, be an owner, be an owner of great companies. And my kids, they own UTMA accounts, and they said, when do we sell these stocks? And I said, never. You own the great companies until they buy your freedom. My grandfather told me, you work for money, and then someday money works for you. And so that's what you do. You own these great companies, you receive your share of dividends.
You're teaching them about compound interest, compound growth.
And,
Yeah.
All these things
just
that you're
behavior,
teaching them.
just the right behavior. We told our one of our children recently, it's like just out of college, trying to make ends meet. It's like, just have the habit in place. I don't care if you're just saving $20 a month and, you're not going to be able to do the right amount of savings, but have it in place so that you're doing it. And
Becomes
then it will
natural.
come, and then go take care of emergency savings, take care of being able to have good transportation and, pay your rent and all those things. Because once you get these habits set up, they will build.
Yeah. Well, I think this was a great way to start off the year, give people some ideas of, get their minds going. Thank you for joining us today. What stood out to you today? Was there something that we mentioned today that sparked your interest, or like it was a brain trigger, like, oh yes, I have to do that. I'm going to put that on my list. Leave a comment. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button. That will help other people just like you to find our channel, and we would greatly appreciate it. If you would like to visit with our team anytime, take the first step and go to our website at brindleandbay.com. Talk to you later.
Nick Davis is an investment advisor representative of Brindle & Bay Financial Advisors, a registered investment advisor. This show is for informational purposes only. Any references to client experiences made may be deemed to be indirect testimonials. Clients were not compensated for providing any testimonial statements. Any references to client experiences are for illustrative purposes only. Actual client experiences will vary. Any exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered financial advice or recommendation to buy or sell a financial vehicle. You should consult a qualified financial tax or legal professional before taking any action. This program is not endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. Brindle & Bay Wealth Management is affiliated with Brindle & Bay Financial Advisors.